Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Convention with the Weekly Comic Roundup. And yes, we're starting a bit early, as stated in the last video. Work schedule, big haul, holiday weekend coming up. Yeah. So, anyways, let's get started. Kicking things off, we've got Astonishing X-Men number 5, wrapping up yet another Fall of X miniseries. Where we left off, Bobby had returned to his ice palace to find Mr. Clean standing over an injured and unconscious Romeo. So the issue opens showing Clean's fight against Romeo. Apparently, Romeo put up quite the fight, which surprised Clean. Romeo's empathic abilities did help, but now, turns out that one of the mutants that Iceman helped early in the series, LoJack, but it was a plant. Put a tracer on Iceman, allowing Clean to track him. But Romeo's trying to convince Iceman to, not engage because Clean will and can kill him. But they fight it out. We kind of get the idea of all of the various modifications that have been made to Mr. Clean. With Clean saying he's been custom made to kill Iceman. Heat barbed in his spine, insulated subdermal Kevlar, a heart as deadly as the sun, and a solar plasma cage and a nice tight gravity shell hidden in his arm. So Iceman and Clean's fight goes on. Pequod is doing his best to monitor from the bloom. Romeo is helping out, is doing what he can to help with his empathy, with his empathic powers. But Bobby makes an escape hatch in the ice palace so that Romeo can escape, and then brings the palace down on top of himself and Clean. And it apparently damages Clean pretty badly. But I think he can't survive as he pulls himself apart to escape, and then basically detonates his heart. Causing Bobby to melt. And also causing Agent Pequod to be to realize that he has failed. There's a memo from Director Devo explaining that while, yes, Agent Pequod did fail, there were the failures were largely teachable. And adding that it suggested that Devo and Stasis put their heads together to figure out, come up with some new concepts in the field of death. Afterwards, there was also a digital brief from Narrative Ops to Director Devo. While Iceman hasn't appeared fully formed. There have been some things that have narrative off thinking that perhaps Iceman is still around. At Vostok Station, researchers report necrocyte pattern frozen onto station windows. King George Island, Orcus missionaries frozen out of Trinity Church. Falkland Islands, beachgoers find frozen sand tributaries resembling circulatory system. Buenos Aires, fisherman uncovers humanoid heart made of ice in his freezer. Sao Paulo, Orcus agricultural ops report loss of fungal weapon crop due to unseasonal frost. Bogota, neighborhood saved from ruptured oil tanker by flash freeze. In Belize City, Orcus facility sites humanoid arm of ice reaching out of trading pool. Cancun, child claims to have survived shark attack thanks to melted snowman. Jacksonville, Orcus prison transport collides with disembodied legs and torso made of ice. So it appears that Iceman is heading north. And the series ends with in Lockkill, New York, where Scarlet Witch currently resides. Apparently Romeo's there with a new bow. Walks into the bathroom and sees that the mirror has been frosted over, and written on it is "See you soon" with a heart and Bobby. I like this book. Iceman he's an Iceman I've always enjoyed. If for other than just the fact of him being the long-standing comic relief character, and I think that he's one of the characters who really got to do a lot in the Krakoan age. The books he was featured in did a good job of utilizing both the class clown aspect of Iceman with the fact that he is an Omega level mutant. I mean, hell, he turned himself into an ice kaiju and literally fought Fin Fang Foom. That's pretty cool. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Uncanny Avengers, number 5. Also another wrap-up issue. Where we left off, Captain Krakoa had been unmasked as none other than Hydra Cap. So we open with basically Hydra Cap's recruitment by Dr. Stasis. Apparently, Hydra Cap prefers to go by Grant rather than Steve. And apparently his idea to take on the role of Captain Krakoa. And as he's about to deliver what would likely be the killing blow to Steve, Deadpool bites his leg and gets shot for it with Psylocke states that they're going to have to get the Captain Krakoa armor off of Cap before they can take him down, otherwise they won't be able to. Penance begins doing so. And Cap throws Deadpool at Grant as a weapon, allowing Steve to get his shield back. Meanwhile, ESU, Rogue, and Quicksilver are trying to defuse the nuke that he put there. Apparently, it has a retinal scanner, though. Grant says he can stop it. Steve figures that means he can too. However, Monet and Psylocke do a quick scan of Grant's mind and realize that it's a trap designed to atomize Captain America. But Rogue takes the nuke, flies out to Area 51. They're trying to figure out what they can possibly do to, save Rogue. Pietro grabs Deadpool, running him running back to where Rogue's at, and basically Rogue absorbs Deadpool's healing factor, and the two of them survive the explosion. Wilson Fisk's story is told, and Grant Rogers gets his day in court and is found not guilty. One of the officers working at the courthouse tells him that his secret empire perseveres. He gives a speech and redubs himself Flag Smasher. That no flag will separate him from his fellow humans. And Rogue figures that Cap would have been angrier, and well, Cap says he is. But when you get to be his age, you learn to keep your powder dry. America is the best but most frustrating country in the world. Worth fighting for, worth dying for. But he'll bet on him and his friends over them any day of the week, and he hasn't lost yet. And that is where the series ends. I like this. This was definitely a needed tie-in. A downside of the Krakoan Age is that it has largely put mutants in a less seemingly in a not as friendly position with their non-mutant contemporaries, the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and so forth. Some are not as have not been as affected as much, largely because they simply just don't operate with the X-Men that often. But though it should be noted that it should be it's to the credit of members of both of all those various teams that they've been able, members have been able to just for example, Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four had part of his memory removed or erased by Xavier, and he doesn't hold that against mutant kind. He holds that against Xavier. Also, he's gotten those parts of his memory back. But yeah, moving on though to our next book, we've got Uncanny Spider-Man #5, also wrapping up yet another Fall of X miniseries. Where we left off. After the events of X-Men Blue Origins, Nightcrawler turned himself over to Orchis. And so the issue begins with Director Vulture paying Silver Sable but and Director Vulture states that the Wild Pack will likely be. He'll be recommending the Wild Pack for continued employment with Orchis, though Sable states that they won't be working for Orchis again. Before they can leave, however, Kramer from the Wild Pack pulls his gun on Sable and tells Vulture that Sable's lying. adding that Travers sold the prototype, or that Sable sold the prototype that Travers built, device to beam messages into other minds. Vulture states that Kramer's rather brave to turn snitch for an ex-convict. But the idea being that perhaps, well, the reasoning is that the prototype was used to communicate with Nightcrawler ahead of time. And it's revealed that Sable and Nightcrawler took down Kramer, and Nightcrawler is taken standing in place of Kramer. Vulture sends the Hounds after them, and the question is, how did Mystique impersonate Nightcrawler without them knowing? And well, as with a flashback panel to X-Men Blue Origins, Mystique explains that she can rewrite every disgusting trace of Sapien's code if she has to, which she has done, and is actually the Nightcrawler that Orchis has in custody, with a couple of pistols hidden inside of her chest. She gets loose. Sable and Mystique deal with Orchis. There's the write-up on the Hound Project. Apparently, Vulture's hatred of mutants was basically manufactured through mild subliminal messaging during interviews. But Sable, Mystique, and Nightcrawler take on Orchis. The Banff spirit that's been hanging out with Nightcrawler takes control of Travers, whose mind was kind of melted by the prototype he made, and firewall codes are put in, biometrically used to shut down the firewall, and Warlock is freed. He basically removes the TO virus from the Hounds. Tries to do so from Vulture, though. Apparently, his TO virus is basically a blank slate. That's his payment. Nightcrawler and Vulture duke it out, with Nightcrawler taking the win by using his sword on Vulture, knocking him out briefly. But before our heroes can escape, it turns out that just outside the teleportation portal is three battalions of Orchis troops. However, the Hounds, Nightcrawler, Mystique, and Sable aren't the only prisoners being held there. They set the Rhino loose, causing enough of a distraction for all of them for our heroes to escape. Kurt opts to give Spidey back the spare costume, but Spidey says keep it. And apparently Kurt workshopped a quip, but with the conversation that him and Peter have afterwards, didn't feel right. Though Kurt does say before everything that with great kinship comes great responsibility, which Spidey likes that the sound of that. As for the what now with everyone, Mystique is would overcome a period of deep trauma through nihilistic abandon. She's been invited for drinks by Cloak and Dagger, and Warlock turns into a baby buggy, and Mystique shapeshifts into an anonymous woman, and they blend into the crowd. As for the Vamp spirit, it's revealed to be Legion. Legion's hiding in the deepest possible hole, which is basically Kurt's heart. He says that we know that the inheritors of a dream got to have a bigger hill to climb than the ones who had it in the first place. And we can't put our hearts and our heads into the climb. Then we'll never see past the dream to see the truth that holds it up. And the series ends with Nightcrawler joining Silver on the Empire State Building for coffee. This is also honest. I've loved all of these Fall of X miniseries. I mean, I'm a sucker for X-Men books, but still, as bleak as they could be, they were still well done, bringing hope to a hopeless point in time for the X-Men. Moving on, though, to our next book, we've got Wolverine number 40. Wrapping up Wolverine's Fall of X tie-in. Where we left off, in Wakanda, Wolverine had stolen an Orcus jet and was basically planning to make stop fighting in the shadows and do something big. So he meets Peter outside of Oscorp, Spider-Man, snagging the hot dog that Peter just bought. Explains his plan, which is get to the Bloom, have Peter hack into the Bloom systems and get what intel he can. They head up, and slight problem. Once they got everything set up, Wolverine is recognized by Orcus, and dogfight. Another Orcus fighter, as well as two more Orcus fighters, I should say, plus two Star Sentinels go after the ship, doing some damage to it. Spidey's able to briefly prevent the damage from going too far with his webbing, but it will freeze. But Wolverine abandons the ship as it explodes. Apparently he sent a goodbye message to Bannister. But Spidey manages to save Logan, having taken over one of the Orcus fighters. And also arranged it to crash down in Iowa, while Wolverine and Spidey end up back in New York. As does the Wolverine skeleton bot that was on one of the ships. Bannister's also sent a response to Logan's message, namely informing him that there have been sightings of individuals matching descriptions of Sage and Domino. So, X-Force is alive and kicking, which we already knew. Spidey and Wolverine end up in New York, as well as the Star Sentinel and the Wolverine skeleton bot. Wolverine and Spidey deal with the two robots. Day is somewhat saved. Elsewhere, Tom and Sage see some internet chatter with some videos of Wolverine active in New York. They intend to go get themselves a Wolverine. And that is where the issue ends. Though it should be noted, X-Force already has a Wolverine. Having two, though, hey, two Wolverines is better than one Wolverine, you know? It's a good story. I like this story. One of the things it really touches on is the whole, basically, Logan's whole thing about being a loner, and even with the whole, like not entirely trusting the whole Krakoa thing, and even going so far as to leaving Krakoa, but at the same time, it still got the idea got its hooks in him. But moving on to our last book for the moment, we've got the original X-Men #1. So the issue begins in a simpler time. The X-Men are fighting Plant Man and Eel when they are suddenly kidnapped by Phoenix, who restores the original Five's memories of their time in the present. Apparently, there is a threat to the whole multiverse. The Phoenix. Apparently, there was a world where so this particular world where this threat began diverged when Magneto declared war on both the X-Men and the Avengers and killed Xavier. Horrified, Jean's vast telepathic powers, long suppressed by Xavier, re-emerged, and she shut down Magneto's mind. Which is apparently something that Jean has thought about, even fantasized about, but, to end his threat forever. With Phoenix, with Phoenix explaining that there are other worlds where where Jean did just that. But basically turning everyone, like anti-mutant politicians having those nudges, basically abruptly changing their ways. Frenemies becoming friends. But Jean began looking to increase her power, which meant looking beyond Earth. You see her just having killed Annihilus and taking the cosmic control rod. But the idea is to send the original X-Men to that Earth and, well, hopefully stop the multiversal threat. So, Iceman's going to do it. After all, he's the only member of the original Five that never had a massive crush on Jean. So, but Angel initially goes to talk to Iceman, but well, that Earth's Angel shows up. Fight breaks out. Everyone manages to be. Eventually, everyone chills out with the fact. Basically, it takes Jean opting not to fight back for Bobby to realize that, okay, yeah, it's really them. And so, the thought is that perhaps the only reason most of the original Five X-Men went along with what Jean's been doing on this Earth is a little telepathic nudge, and Jean confirms it. Bobby suggests they talk to Hank, and, well, he knows. They meet with Hank at Stark McCoy International. Tony Stark is working on Extremis. Beast explains that Stark had a mind like none he'd ever seen. Jean said that she'd lead the genius attack, just suppress the independent streak. With Jean from 616 stating that doesn't work that way. Without that, he isn't Tony Stark. Beast, agrees completely. He comes up with incredible theories, parts of them, but he lost his creativity. He can't make them real. Beast, notes that the fact that this Jean recognizes this tells me that she's the Jean he remembers, and that his longtime friend no longer is. But while Hank, Bobby, and Warren are with the past X-Men, Scott won't be. He'll die before he turns against Jean. They show up to tell Scott what's up, and the Phoenix shows up. And Scott does turn against Jean because he knew what she was. He figured it out. He's known for a while. He just didn't want to admit it. But Jean kills him. Over the course of the fight, it turns out that it's not Phoenix. This is not Jean with Phoenix. It's Onslaught. Bear in mind, Onslaught was created when Xavier erased the, basically mind-wiped Magneto, which Jean did here. Combining the dark parts of Magneto's personality with dark parts of Jean's, and just using the Phoenix as a means to increase, to give him a better. So basically, let people fear him, thinking that they're the Phoenix. The other Phoenix shows up to help and allows the X-Men to escape. Jean ends up standing with her teammates against Onslaught, but that Earth is destroyed. The original 5 asked to, basically just be sent back to when they were taken from, with no memory of the encounter, and Phoenix agrees. However, Phoenix has been talking with someone. The Wolverine of Earth 295, Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. This is actually a one-shot to set up an upcoming miniseries in March called Weapon X-Men, about a multiversal team of Wolverines going after Onslaught. But that is where the issue ends. I like this, I think I was under the impression this was actually the start of a new miniseries. So it kind of is, but I have to admit I was surprised by the ending. Anyways, that's going to do it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Mastodon, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying, live long and rock hard. And happy holidays.